What's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a powerful mini PC that I recently picked up from AliExpress. Well, I do say recently because it just arrived a couple days ago, but I ordered it about 28 days ago. Now this is a real gaming PC coming in with a super small form factor, and if you take a look over on their website, there are a ton of different configurations that you can pick up with this same kind of case here. From an 11th gen i5 CPU paired up with an Nvidia MX450. By the way, I've actually done a video on that. Not a bad little PC, but taking a look here, you can see that you can actually opt to get one with the 12th gen i7 and a GTX 1060, or even up to the 12th gen and an RTX 3050. I've also seen some of these listed with a 3060, but in this video we're taking a look at one of these mini PCs configured with a 14-core 12th gen i7 and an Nvidia RTX 3050 GPU. And by the way, I did pick mine up bare bones because I've already got an NVMe SSD and RAM that I can add to this, but you can configure it basically any way you want from their website. And there's a bunch of different sellers with these listed. They'll go by different names. I'll leave a few links in the description. But as you can see, I mean, this is definitely coming in with a very small form factor. And inside of the box, basically, what I've got here is the mini PC. We've also got some accessories. We can add a 2.5-inch drive inside of the unit. Comes with some mounting hardware and a bracket, plus a 200-watt power supply. I'm thinking the RTX 3060 will come with a 230. This one only came with a 200-watt. So we've got a lot to do with this mini PC in the video, but before we get started, I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by URCD Keys. I've actually been using this site for a couple years now. They do offer Steam keys, Origin, Uplay. They even offer Microsoft applications like Office, but the main reason that I use URCD Keys is for their Windows keys. Right now, their Windows 10 Pro OEM key is $19.84, but if you use code ETA at checkout, you can get 25% off. And another great thing about buying from here is they do accept PayPal. I just did this build here. I need to activate Windows. I'm going to head over to my updates and security. We're going to go to activation. As you can see, I've got Windows 10 Pro, but it's not activated. So I'm going to change product key. I'm going to paste it in here, choose next, choose activate, and Windows is now activated. We're ready to go. My warning is totally gone, and basically that's it. They'll email your code once your payment is processed, and that's basically it. If you're interested in picking up cheap Windows 10 keys for your new PC builds, I'll leave a link in the description. Okay, so taking a look at the I/O, up front here we've got two USB 3.0 ports. Not much going on around the sides, but we do have some ventilation here for the built-in cooler. And around back we've got our power input, gigabit Ethernet, 4 USB 2.0 ports, 2 more USB 3.0 ports, 2 full-size HDMI ports, and these will support 4K 60 out, USB Type-C, and we've also got 2 dedicated 3.5mm audio jacks, one in, one out. Now, since this one came bare bones, it doesn't have any RAM or storage, but it's really easy to add it. There's only 4 screws in the bottom. You will have to remove the rubber feet. It does come with an extra set just in case the stickiness kind of wears off on them. I'm going to be using a 1TB NVMe drive from Kingston, just a simple one I picked up on Amazon, nothing super fancy here, but I did add a heatsink to it. And this one already came with Wi-Fi 6 pre-installed. I'm not sure if all the bare bones are going to come with the Wi-Fi module pre-installed, but from what I've seen, I think they do. Now when it comes to RAM, this will support up to 64 gigabytes of SODIMM DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. I'm going with 16 gigs, so we've got 2 8-gig sticks here running in dual channel. And you might have noticed the cooler system here. We've got 2 fans. Now this is kind of raised up, and we do have some copper heat pipes going to 2 different plates, one on the GPU, one on the CPU. And my main concern here is keeping that 14-core CPU and the RTX 3050 nice and chilly. But the way it looks here, we've got a pretty beefy cooler when it comes to kind of laptop specs, because that's exactly what we're working with here. And we've seen this quite a bit with newer mini PCs coming to the market. I've seen these mini PCs go by a few different names, from the F11, F12 Edge. There's a bunch of different names that they're kind of throwing at these things, but this one happens to be the F12 Edge. That's what it was listed as when I picked it up. And when it comes to the specs, for the CPU, we've got an Intel i7-12700H, 14 cores, 20 threads, 6 performance cores up to 4.7 gigahertz, and 8 efficiency cores up to 3.5. I've added 16 gigabytes of DDR4 running at 3200 megahertz. We've also got that Nvidia RTX 3050 laptop GPU, and this has 4 gigabytes of dedicated GDDR6 VRAM. I've also added that 1TB NVMe SSD, Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0, and we're going to be running Windows 11 Pro on this little PC. Alright, so I've had the system up and running for a little while now, and like I mentioned, one of the first things I was worried about was just the CPU temps here. Not looking bad at all. Now the CPU TDP from the BIOS is at 45 watts, so we've got a boost up to 65, but it doesn't last long. Real quick, I'll show you that. If we just bench this out, from here, jumps up to 60 watts. And as you can see, it comes right back down to around 45. And the fans do kick up a bit, not super loud, but it is making a little bit of a noise here. I kind of suspected it would, given the form factor and how much power this little CPU can put out. And when it comes to that GPU, as you can see, we've got the laptop variant, GDDR6, and our clocks here, very, very close to 2000 megahertz when gaming. We're at about 1930. We could do some overclocking, but I'm going to kind of leave it right there just to see what kind of performance we get out of it, like it is. But overall, very snappy little system so far, but I want to get into some gaming here to show you what this thing can really do. So the first one we're going to test is Cyberpunk 2077. So with this one here, 1080p medium settings, no DLSS. I was actually hoping we could do high with this with no DLSS, but it's kind of a must to get over 60 if you want to go to high settings. And even just setting it at the balance preset for DLSS at high settings will net you over 60. But at medium settings with no resolution scaling, we can get an average of around 78 FPS out of this game, which isn't bad given the form factor. Next thing I wanted to do was take a look at a few benchmarks, and first up we've got Geekbench 6, single core looking great here at 2,233, multi not bad with a 9,172. And remember, we could squeeze a bit more out of it by upping the TDP here to keep those clocks up, but we're just keeping it right there with a base of 45, boost up to around 65. Checking out 3D Mark with Night Raid, total score here 40,180. And finally, Firestrike with the 12,102. Unfortunately, Time Spy kept crashing on me. I tried to re-verify my files and everything like that, but I just couldn't get it to run all the way through for some reason. Next on the list, we've got Spider-Man Miles Morales, 1080p, high settings, looking great here. We're getting an average of around 71 FPS. And again, with DLSS or some screen scaling, you could even use FSR if you want to. You can net a lot more, but down near where everybody is, we're around 71 on average. With The Witcher 3, I was a bit disappointed. We're at 1080p high and we're using the latest updated version with DirectX 12. I thought we'd net a lot more out of this. We're only getting an average of 71 FPS. I figured we'd be up there in the 90s at high settings. And of course, with some scaling, we could get there, but I just thought it would do better kind of with those settings I was using. The next one I wanted to test was God of War, so here we are at 1080, high settings, and we're getting an average of 67 FPS. I figured we'd, get real close to that 60 mark at high settings. With the 3050, I'd probably just go to original settings with it. But so far, everything we've tested here runs really well at 1080p, and these are newer AAA games as opposed to the next ones we're going to test. I was really interested to see if we could do some of the older stuff at 4K, and first up, Grand Theft Auto 5, 4K, very high settings, we can average 82 FPS with this game. At 1440, very high, we're getting an average of around 118 FPS, so this is playable at 4K on this little machine. Street Fighter V also runs flawlessly at 4K, maxed out from the settings. Now when it comes to something like Injustice 2, you can go to 1440p medium or 1080p maxed out. It's really up to you. Same thing with Mortal Kombat 11. Fighting games function very, very well on this machine. And of course I had to test one of my all-time favorite games, the original Skyrim. 4K, high settings, and unfortunately at ultra settings I did get some dips under 60. They were few and far in between, but really when you were using your magic there was lots of particles on screen, it would dip under. So I just dropped it down to high, which still looks great, and we're running at 4K 60. And the final game I wanted to test for this video is not at 4K, we're actually at 1080p, but it's Modern Warfare 2 using the built-in benchmark. Recommended settings, so it is at 1080p, it does enable DLSS, and with it set up like this, we got an average of 91 FPS with a low of 56. So with these recommended settings, it might take some stuff up to very high, might take some up to high. If we just kind of even it out at normal settings across the board, we could get a lot more than this and have a very steady 60 with this game. Another thing I wanted to take a look at here, which is total system power consumption. So while I'm testing this, I have it plugged into a kilowatt meter. And at idle, this is pulling 22 watts. Average gaming, 137 watts. And the maximum that I could get this to pull was 186 watts. And that was an extreme test, maxing out the CPU and GPU to 100%. So we are getting close to that 200 watt power supply that was included, but we're still under it and we're good to go. And either way, you're not going to see that kind of max wattage a lot of the time. That was an extreme test. Next thing I monitored through all of the testing here was the CPU temps. That was something I was really worried about. Idle, 39 degrees Celsius. Average gaming, much better than I thought it would be at 79. Using Cinebench R23, around 6 minutes into it, it did thermal throttle. But under everyday normal use and even gaming, I didn't see those kind of temps, so we were well under that thermal throttle limit. So overall, really impressed with the performance here, and remember there are a few different configurations. I want to pick up the one with that GTX 1060. I know it's not going to perform like this one. You can opt for the i5 with that 1060. It's going to come in a lot cheaper. This one here was around $530 bare bones, so you do need to add storage and RAM. But you can pick up one with the i5 and a GTX 1060 for around $390, and you can always find coupons. So $20 to $30 off right off the top there on AliExpress. I've been on the hunt for one of these mini PCs powered by Ryzen with a Radeon GPU. So if you do run across anything, please let me know down below. I would love to see something even with a 4000 series mobile Ryzen CPU and a 6000 series Radeon GPU paired up just like this. I think it would be awesome for Linux. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you've got any questions or you want to see anything else running on this, just let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning more, maybe picking one of these up, links will be in the description. And like always, thanks for watching.